Miss Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Miss Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Miss Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about over managing. Holy moly, I cannot even say those words. Let's get started. So, I am amazed by individuals who would micromanage others. Not only they micromanage people, but they are pretty much condescending because they are so focused on their own self. They don't even allow people who know how to do their job to actually being able to do it. They are interfering. And I had a conversation today with someone. Sorry, I'm looking at my dogs, making sure everybody is in the right spot. Lulu took my cat's toys again. This is how it rolled in this household. So back to managing. So I was sharing a story that happened a week ago, where someone interfered during a process, which wasn't their business, but they saw the name of that person, and they figured out that person had something they wanted. So instead of letting the two individuals do their normal job, then it started to interfere by a third party, basically becoming the grain of salt in this process. And I always found it amazing that, and I made a reference to the narcissist as well, when you deal with narcissist people, unfortunately everything they touch will not transform and grow. It basically collapses. I'm not going to take example the couple that flew from Europe and are now here. Everything they touch doesn't work. And this is a trait to basically narcissists. But, and I can talk about it for personal reason as well, then I had to deal with narcissists. Even though they had great ideas, they could not deliver, they could not put it together, they were incapable to do that, but very good at trying to control something that would have never worked because they thought they knew how to, but never again allow people to do that. So when we're moving this into the working world, this is what we encounter when leadership is not been taught how to work with subordinate. It's easy to want the title of a boss, a manager, a lead, but when it comes down to you have to let people do their job. You have to give room for individuals to do their job. You maybe have an idea on how to run things. Unless things are not working properly, you should be stepping in. But when people know how to do their job, you can help them to improve, but you should not be telling them what to do, especially when they know how to better than you do. The ego plays a very interesting part of it because people think they know better than others when they don't appreciate the gift that people have. Or they are, I would say, insecure because the person they're dealing with is smarter than they are and they have a knowledge they don't and they feel threatened. This is the kind of situation you're always going to encounter in your life. Then it's a personal or professional life. So you're going to encounter people who are basically insecure. I have witnessed enough of that with individuals that will be your worst own enemy because their insecurity, they will use it as a weapon against you and play the victims because they like to do that and be me, when in fact their insecurity becomes the worst of the worst. I had managers that I knew were insecure at some level, and instead, again, embracing somebody who's smart, would turn it down and see you as the enemy when in fact it's like, I just want to do my job and go home. That's the only thing here I want. I don't want your job. I'm not interested in about your job. I just want to do my job and go home because this is not my home. This is not my family. This is where I spend the time to work, and I live here and can embrace my own life afterwards when I leave here work. Leadership is essential for guiding people, but micromanagement needs to stop. Again, when you create a chaos and you're wasting your time because somebody else has decided to step in a dance that is very well oiled, that machine works great and become the grain of salt. It takes a lot of time to fix it. It takes a lot of frustration to try to let them know, do not step in this. There is a process already, but they have to feel better, even to the point to even step in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, well, we have been doing it already for a while. I did not needed you to reiterate what I already know, what we already know. So for people, and I said it should be a requirement. First of all, when you're a kid, and I don't remember, I had a couple of people I talked to when I interviewed a few years ago, and we talked about leadership. Leadership should be taught at school. And I'm not talking MBAs. I'm talking 3 to 4 years old. When you're in kindergarten, you should already, and you see this in some of the Chinese schools, you should be teaching them leadership. Okay? Let them go and innovate. Let their creativity become wider because we can find solution better. Now, if people are all immersed into leadership, I can guarantee you got better people at the age, at teenage years that can run and do things that will not take them 20 years to learn to do this. Also, bringing leadership into that concept will really bring out the great leaders out of it. So when they go and take position, let's say they start at the bottom of the food chain, but they end up to be a manager, they know how to do it and not feeling insecure enough to want to over control everything. That's the issue. It's the micromanagement, the sense of entitlement. Oh, well, I'm a manager, so I know better, so I'm going to tell you how to do it. And when it's like, well, no, you don't. I have encountered that actually several years ago when I was at a big corporation. I'm not going to name the name actually. And I end up with somebody that started to tell me how to do my job. She even decided to redo my job and how I should go with the processes, which I was laughing in my head. And I'm like, sure, not a problem, which I never followed what she was saying. However, because I was working within the compliance team and the legal department, because I work with compliance and legal, I had, I don't know, at least a dozen lawyers I was working with. And it was very interesting that she got a pushback by one of them. Pretty bad, actually. So her idea to do things went and backfired in her face because she thought that, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, me, I'm just going to sit back and let the shyster hit the fan. I told you so maybe come later on. Who knows, in my head at least. I don't care. And I mind my own business and continue to what I was supposed to do. So I never follow her direction. And within a week or two, run back in my little space at my desk. Oh, well, we're going to do this, and that like it was supposed to. And I looked at her and she looked like an idiot. And that's kind of sad to say it. When you get a when you get a backlash in your face because you want to reinvent, you think you know better, which you don't. You're dealing with individuals who deal with law compliance and it's very extremely regulated, and you decide that you're going to put a spin into it. Trust me, before you implement anything that crazy and you engage and you think you know better, you should do your homework and humble yourself by learning from others. So she was very quickly recentered and pushed back by one of the lawyers, which was a good thing actually. Even though I said that to her before, but again, me, I was how can I say that? I wasn't one of her I was the most hated person over there, and she did not like my gut. But the problem is every time she tried to create something like that, it backfired in her face. So they were no bad old me. I just agreed, said sure, no problem. But I asked questions as well. What was the intention, and did she check with compliance? This is funny because when she started to do this, I did ask her the simple question when I was sitting with her, and she had those grandiose ideas. And I'm like, well, first of all, we're under CIA, which is a compliance, not the CIA, the Secret Service, but the CIA, which is a corporate compliance that once a year for 5 years that we had to go through, and the feds would come in and we had to be compliant and they had to report, and they were staying for a week, auditing everything to ensure they were not out of compliance. And for this individual to open her mouth, the only question I said is, did you check with compliance? Because that's their processes. Oh no, that's not a problem. I'm like, okay, okay, I'm not fighting. I'm like, I'm just asking the question, and I walked away. This is when she tried to do her work and came up with that idea and backfire in her face because again, didn't know what she was talking about. So she felt humiliated when she went in my at my desk talking to me, and I was in my in my head like, okay, well, yep, told you so, in my head. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem, sure, we'll do that. Which I was still doing what I was supposed to do at the end of the day. I wasn't going to be listening to her and put myself in hot water because she had a grandiose idea. But this is the kind of information when you get people who are not listening in management position or in a leadership position and think they know better. You need to humble yourself. I'm going to be honest, you need to be humbled. I don't care if you're a CEO, if you are a CFO, CIO, whatever you are, manager, VP, funny chief of operation, doesn't matter. Humble yourself first and learn from others. I have worked with teams and I've been the bridge with several teams to work with them. Even in that company I was working in, that billion-dollar company, everybody were working in silo. I was the only one from that group to be able to work with different business units. And I was asking people, I said they were all coming to me because they needed some of the compliance staff running because they were not doing their job properly. They had no education, they had nothing. So it was very interesting to ask them, say, but why don't you ask help from this group, from a group I am in? And the answers were, we don't like them. They are too arrogant. They don't listen. So they didn't want to do their study where we had basically a clinic. We could do things. They could do things. They didn't want to go over there because they were not listening, did this squat. And they didn't want to work with them because it was always a fight. When you deal with people in management who are not listening, then that becomes a problem. When you have people stepping in who have an interest that is not for the highest good, personal interest, that becomes a game changer because they're changing the rules and they start to interfere with everything. That is not good. So I work with those teams and I open doors that nobody could open doors for, and I was working with them to get everything done the way they were supposed to. So basically on the top of what I was doing, I was opening the doors, and people from different groups heard about me and were talking only to me because they didn't want to talk to the rest of the people. Well, I work with them because I don't need to be cocky for what I need to know. I needed to make sure those guys get their things done because before they could do a study, they had to have their ducks in a row. Everything should have been signed, ready to go, blah, blah, blah. So they had to go through compliance. But when you're looking at leadership, you need to be humbled. I work with fantastic people who had no voices. I brought the best people in-house to get work done, becoming again the bridge. And I've done that in different corporations, in different businesses as well. Even the $1 million companies, the small one, the baby one I work with, it's coming in, and the first day I was working, I was supposed to do orientation, blah, blah, blah. I was already working and fixing things and communication, which was the bigger thing, closing the gap between each group who were fighting. And I'm like, you know, you're not even 100 people here, you're like 50 people and you're fighting amongst each other. I'm like, I left $1 billion companies who were a headache and fighting amongst each other, and you do it by the square inches. Because key people in management had a different way to do things. They were not respecting each other. I don't care if you like each other or not to work together. The goal is get things done. We don't have to be, I always say to people, we don't have to be best friend here to work together. As long as the job is done, I'm not going to be spending my weekend at your place. You're not going to come to my place. It doesn't matter. You're not my family. Again, I'm here to do the job and move along. That's what it is. Some people assume, and that's a mistake from a lot of people, is that, oh, well, it's like my family. I'm moving in. No, you're not. Because when you get laid off, trust me, you're going to feel the pain on this one. So, understanding micromanagement doesn't help. Trying to interfere. I only step up when it was needed. I explained enough because I did work on overnight. I can do intellectual and physical work, which not a lot of people can do. And I'm not being arrogant on this one, seriously. And I run a back room. And in that back room, I had different areas that people cover. One was covering for the food groceries. One was covering for health and beauty. One was covering for chemicals. You got papers, blah, blah, blah. Men's, whatever. And I explained that story that one individual wanted, somebody left. I think she quit or she got transferred somewhere else. I don't remember. She was the only female in that back room, actually, at the exception of me coming in. And one individual who not a lot of people would have given him credit, he wanted to do the health and beauty. And I'm like, okay, I give you, what did I give him? 3 weeks, something like that, a month, something like that. I gave him a time frame. I said, I want you to be up and running. You really want to take care of it? I did not say no to him because I wanted to see what the opportunity was for him to do and how could he excel. Because if you don't give a chance, unless you know that person is extremely bad and you know if it totally sucks and forget it, it's like, nope, you need more training. We need, I said totally sucks. Not competent enough. We're going to course correct that because people are going to say, oh my God, you said sucks. Well, sometimes we do sucks. In a good way, in a bad way, in a worse way. We do. We all do at some level. So I gave him opportunity and I said, I give you this amount of time and get it rolling. You know what? Nobody, and the people above me, because I was running the team, so the manager on overnight said, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I give him a thing. I will verify that this is my call, not yours. First of all, because I'm leading that team. You're not telling me what to do with my team. I am going to be dealing with my team. Because I'm not a puppet. I let him do it. And you know what? He succeeded very well. He did very well. He was just having a blast. I had no issue with him because I let him do it. I said, if I need you to pull you out, or I will intervene if I see things are not running. And you know what? He ran it very well. And he wasn't somebody that was that fast. That was the reason that people were saying, well, he's not going to succeed. Guess what? He did awesome. He maintained that area so well. I was so proud of him. Very nice person. I saw him many years ago. What it was about 2003, 2005, 6, 7. I left in 8, I think 2008, because I was doing corporate. I was working overnight and during the day. I had 2 jobs. When I saw him was over a year ago, something like he recognized me. Well, obviously, I probably marked a lot of people at some level. It's like, hey, Ma, I was buying some paint. And I'm like, Sugar Pumpkin, Todd, what are you doing here? And it's like, well, we did this. And I said, nice to see you. He was very happy and he had good memories. And, even thanked me that, gave him an opportunity. And I said, well, yeah, you did a good job. He left over there on overnight because he got tired of that crap. Crap was happening after I left and he didn't like that the way it changed. But very nice individual, but giving him a chance, not interfering. Let him do it, giving 2 to 3 weeks to do it, something like that, 30 days or something, less than 30 days, I think. I don't remember exactly what it was, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, close to a month. Figure it out. You better to get it done. That's mean pull and backstacking too. Not only from the floor, from the truck, but also the floor. But it was very interesting because he did it. Okay, when you give people opportunities, and I worked in corporate and I did the same, it's teaching people, it's like give them opportunities. You don't have to be the grain of salt and stop to be cocky about it. Like, don't be condescending about all of this because your insecurity and your projection are not helping. So appreciate what people gifts have and learn from it. A lot of people are so afraid they don't even want to learn from it. They're just horrible. And for others who on the end or the recipient of that, it's extremely undermining and insulting because it really shows little respect for people who are capable to do. That is not a good way to work with. So I wanted to share this with you today because when we're talking leadership, and we don't, you know what? Leadership is a skill you have. If you don't, then you learn from it. But you need to be open to make the right changes because those changes will impact your uh, professional life, but your personal as well. As you're changing, growing, see what you have to work on. Makes a huge difference. You can have people walking on water, following you through hell back and forth because you're a good leader and a true leader. They will do everything and some more. And if you suck at it, if you're a very extreme micromanaging, sadistical individual, trust me, people will do the bare minimum. They're not gonna go through the fire with you. I can tell you that. They're gonna let you go to your own fire. You're gonna be the one to be frustrated, go home frustrated. Why? Because you are the problem. I always said and will always said on all of my podcasts when I talked about business, the cancers start at the top. It's not the people at the bottom who are the problem. They are the reflection of management. So poor management will make poor workers. That's subordinate, if you preferred. And it doesn't matter if you're in an office or in a plant working. It doesn't. So it will be good if corporations look at training, at coaching. And I'm not talking about the one that sells you $20,000 and promise you a miracle and nothing happened. Or I know my cousin knows somebody, because I have seen coaches who are the worst of the worst, making a ton of money, and they did not help anyone. You have to be cautious with this one. You have to do your homework. And it's not based on how much I'm going to pay them. It's based on the competency and the need you have to bring more harmony to your company. Also, something else. If you have somebody that is not in the right place, and it can be upper management, it can be management, it can be even in the office or on the floor at the plant, then you need to make the switch. Because they are the grain of salt and you are making the company struggle more to produce something and fixing something than wasting everybody else's time. So that's something you have, in leadership wise. Gotta be honest. And don't promote your friends. Because, we're friends, so we're gonna play the networking. I promote people based on their competency, not who's who. That again is a no-no. I have seen too many incompetent people in places that created more nightmares. Like the one I explained, that manager wanted to change the process because she thinks she knew better. When it's like you have no knowledge back and forth of what you're talking about. I do. I have ears. Then I've learned all of this. And I got the crash course because I had to pick up somebody else's slacks and do what I was to do and expand it to other business units. But learning is the key and being open to receive feedback, which most people don't want. It's not pleasant to receive feedback, isn't it? What do you mean? No, you don't do this and you don't do that. Oh, I will improve it. Yeah, it doesn't. So I do truly believe that coaching and having people really to continue to educate managers and working on their traits, because some of them, oh boy, they need help. They do really, really need help to just being able to do their job. And it's not, it's not trying to be mean, but there is a reality. And if your company doesn't do that, then do me a favor, go on your own and search for it and see if you can get reimbursed at the end of the day. But learn new coaching and new ways to communicate. One of our biggest issues is communication. Will always be communication until people start to understand that. So this was our podcast for today. See, not that bad. You got some stories too that I share or some I reshared, but I don't know. It's just something I wanted to share. There is something I'm going to talk about my infamous groupie fan again. I'm going to talk about insecurity and just how amazing it is to deal with that as well. I know it's just midweek. Hey, it's not a Friday I'm recording today. It's a Wednesday, so let's enjoy that, and we'll talk to you on the next podcast. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Amy's Universe Podcast.